Hey, and welcome back to episode 13 of the Grateful Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Wagner, and I could not be more excited today to be recording this podcast once again in the morning. A little bit tired, but let's get going. I'm psyched. So today, this podcast, as you saw in the title, is about it ended up being four. So my four biggest takeaways from my life recently. And it's going to be I'm not using a study or anything. I felt like this was an episode I needed to make because I kind of just wrote down on a page my four biggest takeaways of life recently, and they felt pretty profound. And I wanted to be able to articulate them. I think these podcasts really help me. Not just, they're helping other people, but they're also helping me process my own ideas in a good way, in an articulated way, in a way that I can even understand better how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And that's one of the big reasons that I'm doing this episode, because I really want to see how I explain this and everything that I've learned. A lot of these biggest takeaways are things I've learned in France on my trip abroad. And it's crazy to think about just how much we can grow in a short amount of time. Before I get into this episode, I would like to do two things, actually. So, of course, firstly, I have to do I'm actually going to wait till after what I'm grateful for today. But before that, I want to thank two fans out there, because I have been I've been really busy recently. I've had a lot of things I'm working on, but I have two people that have watched these videos, and they're always commenting, they're always reaching out to me, and every time they reach out to me, it makes my day better. So, Kip and Gaurav, thank you guys. I just love you guys' energy, and every time you comment and leave something, it really makes my day so much better. Kip, I'll get back to you about that project, man. I've been really busy, but I've been trying to look a little bit, and I think I found some stuff. So, yeah. Just want to thank you guys, because it really helps me understand that what I'm doing here is actually helping real people out there. And that's one of the coolest things that I could ever hear. It just makes me so happy. Even if it's just you guys, if I have 2 views on something, if it was just you guys, I know I'm helping you out, or I hope so, but I also know that it's just cool. I've made connections with other people through this, and those are the types of things that I love. All right, so leading into what I'm grateful for, of course, it's going to be related into the theme of this episode. So, today I'm really feeling grateful, and when I say what I'm grateful for, it's not like I do write it out, right? But I genuinely do feel gratefulness for this. I'm not just saying this because that would feel a little cheap. Like, I genuinely am very, very grateful for this, and it's just for gaining wisdom with age. Everyone always says, like, we picture like the sage, like the old wizard, right? Or like you picture Dumbledore. I don't know. But like someone old, gray hair, and like being really wise. But I see why that's a stereotype. Just being 17 and gaining wisdom, I see every year I'm wiser. I look at life with a better perspective. I have more knowledge to build on, more confidence, and it's really cool, because that way I just know that, like, when I'm older, that version of me is going to be wiser, because he'll just have more experiences, more failures, more lessons, everything to learn from. That's really cool to think about. All right, so let's get into this. The first thing, my first big takeaway from life recently, is patience. Impatience is the reason that I'm talking about patience. I've changed my mind a lot because I want the perfect way to succeed. However, the perfect way to succeed is not to change your mind and do the same thing over and over and over until it's boring and you are amazing at that certain thing. All right, and so what I'm kind of talking about here is the fall and winter and this era where I really got into YouTube. But with getting into, I think if I was just in YouTube and I was just making these videos, it would have been great. But after like a month, my perfectionism almost, or my drive for just excellence told me, all right, well, now it's about time to make shirts, to make merch. Now it's about time to make a podcast. Now it's about time to start like a challenge on Instagram. And all these things surrounded around my YouTube channel. And the reality of it, these are all great ideas. But I was not yet good enough on my YouTube channel to do things like that. I was trying to build a personal brand when I had no base for the brand. Because I wanted success fast. I wanted to see an impact on what I was doing so fast. But in reality, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. I was rushing to figure out what I wanted to do with my life as well. I felt pressure from people not necessarily. People close to me, I don't feel pressure from them for this. But there's a lot of what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be? All that stuff. And so I just sat with myself and I really tried to figure it out. And I think I did, right? I think I do know the general thing I want to do with my life. But I think the mistake I got there was trying to be too specific. Because I don't think it makes any sense to be thinking about the future, trying to make plans for the future when I know that it'll be a natural decision because, as I said, wisdom comes with age. So every decision you make in the future, you are more informed on this decision than you are now. So to try to make a decision in the future, in this moment now, makes no sense because you're doing yourself a disservice. Because in the future, you have much more information for this certain decision. You're a wiser person with more experience. So trust that judgment. This, of course, doesn't apply if it's you'll be in a stressful situation. It's tomorrow, and you're I have to make this decision now so I don't get wavered by another person's persuasion or whatever. But that's a specific situation. I'm talking about if I'm trying to think about what I want to do when I'm 23, I don't know, in 6 years, I shouldn't be doing that. It's wasting my energy now that I could be putting on something that's going to make me better now. And the better I get now, the more wisdom I'll gain, the more experience I'll have. And when I'm 23, I'll just be that much wiser and smarter and better and more equipped to make this good decision, make the right decision. In every moment, we make the best decision that we can with what we know in that moment. And these are the things I'm learning, right? This patience thing, it sounds funny, but it's very, very handy just for life. To be patient, I always thought I was a somewhat patient person, but no. And see, that's one way that I succeed because I don't have patience. I can't tolerate insuccess. But the biggest thing to success isn't success, it's to fail, right? The more you fail, the more you succeed. But it depends on what you're doing because you have to focus all your eggs in one basket in order for it to work. And that's why I just didn't understand with patience and concentration. I thought concentration was just work around a thing, but you have to be specific. I'll bring it back to like the fall and winter, and when I was starting all these things. I think if I did that, what I was doing at that pace, like let's say I didn't try to do anything else. I just did the podcast and YouTube. If I did that for 5 years and I got better every single time, there's no way I would fail. There's no way. I love this quote from Alex Ramosi. I don't have it directly, but there are two options. There are two outcomes in business, he says. You either quit before you fail, or you either quit before you succeed, or you succeed. I think that's insane because it gives you no option to just completely outright fail. It's the way he says that, it's completely effort-based, and I honestly am in such agreement with it. I think that there's always a way to succeed in a certain way. But what I ended up doing is I made another change. I got a business idea, and that's what I've been focusing on for the past 2 months now. And it's kind of all I've tried to focus on. As you might have seen with these podcasts, I no longer have a video to it, right? And I'd like to start that back up when I'm in the U.S. and I have more time and stuff like that. But right now, like, space on the camera, it just takes a long time to upload from the camera to YouTube. And that's another way where I'm just like, this is not an amount of time I can allocate to the podcast, because right now, the biggest goal is succeed in this one thing. And after you succeed in one thing, you can go to another, as long as this thing, you're still putting effort into it. And that's patience, right? You have to just be patient enough to wait for one thing and just put your eggs in one basket. Because if not, there's someone else out there putting all their eggs in this basket, and they're going to succeed, and it's just going to be another side hustle that doesn't work out. All right, let's go to the second takeaway. It's imperfect action. So here's something that I think contradicts a lot of patience, but it actually goes with it so well. It's so funny how complete opposites work together so well in many different areas of life. And this is a perfect example, because imperfect action, what I'm talking about, is not being a perfectionist and not just going for something until it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect right away. It takes a lot of time and takes a lot of patience, like we were talking about. So business, I just went for it. It was one of those decisions that I've gotten really good at, but I'm really good at imperfect action now. You just go. You have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with sucking. If you ever move to a country and you don't speak a language and you have no choice, you get good at completely failing in imperfect action, right? So I think I owe a lot of the skill to that. But everything involves just going, the opposite of patience, and continuing at this speed with patience, but hunger, until it works, and then go harder. If you want to basically what that means is, if you want to get better at anything, you have to just go. The start is the hardest part. So many people get hung up on the start, right? I've talked about that before on this podcast, on the YouTube channel. That's where most people fail. If you just start something, you're already ahead of 95% of people, because they were just too afraid to start. They were afraid of, I don't know what people would think, how they would be judged for failing. That's more what people would think. Just failure in general, letting themselves down. But mostly I think like what people would think, in many different ways. So just get over that. Go. You're already ahead of most people. All right. So now your competition is the 5%. Most of those people are going to be like me earlier in the year. They're probably going to quit. So they're probably going to try something else because they don't see instantaneous results. You have to be patient, because it comes right after the hardship. Like, it just seems so real to me that if you just actually stick with something for a certain amount of time, it's like you'll get results. Because you'll get better at what you're doing. Like, watch where... I'm so excited to see where my business is, not in just a year, but in 5 years, in 10 years, right? I'll be, let's say, like, yeah, in 5 years, that's my favorite thing to do right now. I'll be 22. Like, where will this be? It'll be incredible because I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep patience, right? And I'm going to take imperfect action. I'm not going to try to make perfect decisions every time. I'm just going to go for the little things and build upon these skills. If you just go for things, you just go for it and stick with it. And stick with it until you keep getting better, right? Because you have a hunger for success. You have a hunger to win. You have a hunger just, I don't know. And that was not very articulate. But you just want to keep growing, right? Hunger for growth, I guess. And you're patient in the sense that you can wait for success. Your success can just be getting better. And that's where imperfect action is huge. You can just, like, it just makes you start. You can't start something, you can't do something great without starting and sucking. It's just not, you have to suck at some point. In order to do that, you have to take imperfect action because later you can work on perfecting the action. But there's no perfection without the action itself. And the only way to get better at the action is doing it. Okay, number 3, third big takeaway. This too shall pass. So, I don't know how many of you have ever seen the big, like, Tom Cruise interview. I don't know who he was with, but it was like an interview with a bunch of actors, and he gave the speech on this too shall pass. And I saw that the other day, and I'm like, wow. I feel like I'm so aligned with that. Like, I really have learned about this. And this really goes along with what I was talking about with patience. But time is your ally, and it is always there. And time is always going to pass. Time is always with us. So just like with patience, sometimes all we have to do is just wait. It'll pass, no matter if it's good, no matter if it's bad. If this moment sucks, if you think this sucks, right? Like you're in a terrible state, this too shall pass. If you think you're on top of the freaking world, you're the greatest, this too shall pass. Something will bring you down. Time always brings new things. And everything will pass. 7.5 months into this exchange, crazy to say, nearly fluent in French. Business starting, right? It all passed. It all passed. Like, my hardships in September, not knowing anything, like, all this passed, and everything has come to now. And it's crazy. I think about this sometimes, just how time has passed and what time brings, right? But all we gotta do is wait sometimes, and stuff's gonna happen. All right, and number 4, lastly, every hardship is your favorite story. So seek out more difficulty because it shapes you, it makes you better, and it gives you better stories. This one's interesting. But I feel like even there, I was talking about like my hardships in September, but in a good way. How often do we hear someone nearly brag about the things that they've endured, the hard things they've endured? I would say it's pretty common. And why? Because your hardship is what made you who you are. That's what shapes us. It's what shapes us. Soft moments aren't hard enough to mold the iron that we are, right? But these hard moments are difficult. They really shape us. They make a big impact. I'm not saying that every moment doesn't shape us. It does, but the hard moments that we endure in life, they really make us who we are. The challenges and all that. And I feel like when we have the perspective of afterwards of some of these moments, we understand that. We understand that the hardest moments of our life are the moments where we learn the most, where we grew the most, where we became who we love ourselves to be. And we're really grateful for it. But no matter what, at least I feel this too, like, it's hard to seek out these hard moments, even though you can tell yourself, I know this is going to be great. It's really hard to force our body, force our brain, force everything to work together to do something really difficult. To do something out of your comfort zone, to do something that sucks in the moment. But just remember that, just do it. Because every time that you really face difficulty, that you've failed, you've been laughed at, I don't know what you've gone through, but for me, every time I've just if I've done something stupid, I've never learned more from things like that. My biggest mistakes, my biggest errors in life. And when I think about life like that, I feel so enlivened. I feel so free. I don't feel scared at all because I know that I can completely mess up and it's going to suck. I can do something awful and it will suck, right? That moment, I don't know how long it's going to last of it sucking, but afterwards, there's nothing that I can learn better from. I'll always get better from that. I'm not going to let myself come down to the same thing as it was before because I had that experience. And just like I talked about all these things work together, just like I talked about with learning from time. It happens because you fail more and you learn so much from your failures. So don't be afraid to fail because it's just going to make you better. And the more you fail in one thing, the less you fail in the future. But the less afraid you are to fail, and that's part of it. That's another reason that patience and just going for something, one thing, is huge because you accumulate these failures and these lessons. And the people that are best at something are the ones that have failed the most in it. Because they understand how to fail, and that means they understand how to win and succeed. So that's a challenge for you guys, and a challenge for myself as well. Seek out more hardships, fail more. And I've been doing this, trying to just stay out of my comfort zone all the time and just seek out more hardship in ways that I can just get punched down to the ground. Like, obviously not really, but ways that I can just get a little slap in the face, right? And learn from it. Because you don't learn more from anything else than failure. All right, guys and girls. I loved making this episode, and it was fun just talking with my little notebook. And I hope that you guys learned something. I definitely am really, really happy about these things that I picked up because I think they're pretty big lessons. And I guess I'll just do another one of these next year, and we'll see how much I've learned that year. How cool would that be? All right. Thank you guys for listening. I love you all. Hope you have a great day. Stay grateful. I'll see you next week. Bye.